This video is intended to give you a quick overview of the Epson Work Series C20590. That's the 100 page per minute inkjet Epson product that really does a phenomenal job in a tremendous amount of markets out there, whether it be nonprofits, churches, schools, anybody that's running large quantities of color or black and white material. Just wanted to show you a quick overview of the print driver here so you can get an idea of what it can actually do for you. But once we dive into the printer, you'll be able to see a lot of the function and features look pretty similar. You're able to come in and change your paper source. Most of the time I leave that on auto select. Let the machine decide if your document's a letter size, let it pick the paper. But you can also come in here and do any of the overrides. So if you've got something unusual or a different size paper, say a 12 by 18 or 11 by 17, you can do that as well. So the machine gives you an automatic feature as well as a manual override for that. This area here, your output paper, this is great. So if you've got something that's letter size and you want to blow it up to a poster size, maybe 11 by 17 or vice versa. You've got something that maybe is a poster and you wanted to shrink it down to a flyer for a handout or a mailer or even a postcard that you want to send out to someone, you'd have the ability to do that there. But typically you're going to leave that setting on same as the document size. You got your standard reduction and enlargement. So one of the neat things that Epson does, you don't have to try to figure out what percentage, like you can come in and change your percentages. You can just simply tell your document to reduce or enlarge and fit to the size paper. It also gives you a neat feature that centers it, because a lot of times on a copier what will happen is if you fit something to a size paper, it'll be skewed a little bit left, right, up, down. The machine's trying to do it best it can, but it doesn't have that feature to center it where the Epson does, which is a very neat feature to have there. Coming on down to your paper type, you got a wide variety of different paper types, and what those do is actually make adjustments inside the machine, both from the inkjet heads, the density, the amount of ink put down, all kinds of technical things are going on there. But essentially the most important part here is to make sure that your settings on the machine for the paper types that are inside the machine are set here in your print driver. An example would be if I selected, say, an extra thick paper for a card stock or something, and I don't have that card stock set in the machine, well, then I'm going to have a conflict and I'm going to have an error. It's easily overridden from the control panel, but to make it nice and easy, you got to make sure that whatever paper type you select here is available in the actual machine. So I want to show you what those messages are saying when they pop up. So if I do go down to extra thick, the first thing that pops up, it tells me, do you want the standard tray to be the MP tray for this? Because it's showing none of the paper types inside the machine are there. You can say, don't display that message again. A lot of times if you're doing any kind of special jobs, we'll run it through the MP tray, which is your bypass tray essentially. Also, if you'll notice, any of the features that are not available with that paper type, they get grayed out. So I cannot change the quality. I cannot do two-sided printing, which is pretty standard when you get into the extra thick paper. And what that means is you cannot do automatic duplexing. So you can turn the paper over and shoot it back through. Let's say if you have a postcard or anything crazy like that you're running on extremely thick paper, you'll still be able to accommodate it there. But I'm going to go back to the auto select. That way we'll just make sure I can show you some of the other settings that we have here. Only two quality settings, standard and high. I have yet to see any reason to run anything on high, mainly because the standard does a great job with what's going on. Your two-sided printing, pretty straightforward. Do you want to bind on the long edge or the short edge? When it says binding, that means do you want to flip it over or flip it up? That's essentially what that means, with long edge binding being flip over, short edge binding being flip up. Sometimes in some applications you do have a need for that. So you've also got a little additional settings in here if you wanted to, so you can start changing some of the margins, some of the edges. You actually have the ability to make some adjustments if you wanted to for your binding margins here. I typically let the machine do that all to itself, but you do have that ability to do it if you want to. Coming on down, you got the ability to do multi-up. So if you're doing, say, you designed a business card and you wanted to do 4-up, or a postcard you want to do 4-up, or something just simple 2-up, you have that ability as well. You can reverse the order. There are some instances where you want the machine to print in reverse order. I have found that useful for anything like 3-part forms, or something that has to be collated or stacked in a particular way, as opposed to having to change the order of the pages in your document you created. You can do it in reverse order. Kind of a neat little feature, but not something you see all the time. You'd have the option for collated and uncollated, and then we'll move over to our finishing tab. So our finishing tab really comes into play when you do have a stapler. You can see the machine I'm printing to does not have a stapler finisher on it, but if it does, then it allows you to go in and put staples in the left-hand corner, right-hand corner, or 2 on the sides. That way you can create a book, but you also can just create a stapled set if you like. We can look at some of the other features here. Your paper source for a separator page. So that's in between the jobs. If I wanted to put a colored piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, anything like that, I can do that here. And I would just tell the machine, where do I want to pick that up from? Which tray do I want to do from the MP tray, one of the cassettes, however I want to do it. The next one would be your output tray. With our machine, because we don't have a finisher attached to it, we just have the face down tray option. So if we did have the finisher, we would have the additional tray we could have the output go to there. I can also do a pretty neat feature. Even if I don't have a finisher, I can do a rotate sort. So I can have paper going in the machine 2 different directions. I can have it landscape and portrait. And in between the sets, it would essentially rotate the paper. Makes it nice and easy when you go to pick up, say, 50 sets of 4 pages. Makes it real easy for distribution there. So kind of a neat little feature that we've got there as well. This last one, this job type, wanted to talk about. So normal print is I hit print and the machine takes off, does its thing. Confidential print is if I've got something that I don't want everyone to see. So I can actually print that over to the machine, and there will be a 4-digit PIN that I would put in, and then it would release my job. So if you take a look at it, you can actually see here. So I can come over here and say, all right, I want a confidential job, and that means only print when I'm standing there. That also is tremendously useful, that if you're going to use color paper, cardstock, anything unusual, and you want to make sure that it's in the machine before you go to print, then you could do that as well. You could use a confidential print. And you can see where the username and some of the job names, you can put in a custom name if you like, whatever you want it to be. If you do not put anything there, then it'll just be the name of the document. So you see up here where it says poster sample. When I go over to the machine, it would actually have a listing under owner and poster sample. And then once I touch it, I would just put in my 4-digit code and I'd take off from there. You have a couple of other options there. Verify job is basically everything goes to the machine and it waits on you to walk up to it to say, yes, everything's set and everything's good, I want to go. And then reprint job is kind of a neat feature for something that you're going to print multiple copies of, or you're not sure how many you're going to need. So you can send over the job. It will actually print to the machine, but then it'll actually hold in the print queue. So you can reprint it as many times as you like. Very neat feature there. Comes in pretty handy when we're talking about forms or storing documents or anything along that line. So pretty straightforward, but also great options there. Some of your other options that you can dive into, you've got some color correction things that you can do. So if you click on your image options, you can start changing some of your color profiles. That's essentially what this is doing. So if you've got maybe your black is coming out a little gray with your text, you can go in and tell it to print your text in black. Just simply do that. You can start looking at, when you click at some of the options, it'll tell you some of the things that it could change in there. And I like that because sometimes when we make changes, it affects other things, and we got to make sure that we understand what we're working with there. And you'll see some of the options when I get into the color. It will actually give me some enhanced options that I can come in here and start changing around if I wanted to. I can be honest with you, most of the time I do not mess with any of these whatsoever. I let the machine do its thing there. One cool feature I do use a little bit is the watermark. I think that's pretty neat. So you can come in and put in any kind of tag you like or any kind of watermark that you like. You can use these that are already there. So if you got something top secret, you can print top secret on it. But you also can come in and make any changes. So if you wanted to make a change or do a custom one, you could do that as well. It allows you tremendous amount of flexibility in there. You can put headers and footers just like in Excel, Word, any of the standard programs. If you don't have those headers and footers, you can actually have the machine add those. So pretty neat if you need something time date stamped and you forgot to do it when you created the document, you can actually do that from here. So you could go in and do those as well. But pretty straightforward. Again, just gives you some advanced features in here to allow you, and also gives you another one where your job type, same as before, but you can actually make that selection from here as well. Now your maintenance tab is really not something that most of our average users get into, but you can start taking a look at different things from the monitor, the monitoring preferences. There is a couple of things with the extended settings. These are typically set by us as your installing dealer when we come in. This is not something that really you would get into too much as an end user, just mainly because a lot of these are, we understand your application, so we're going ahead and setting these the best we can. But feel free to play around with those. I've got some customers that absolutely love making changes and you know, play around and see if they can get even more out of the machines there. But that's it for there. So the one last little thing I want to talk about on the print driver is the software update. So anytime you can press that button, and what it does is go out and updates all your scanning software, your fax utilities, your print driver, your monitoring software. It does everything. Really does a great job there. It'll even update your firmware as needed, which is something we definitely appreciate as your provider there. But that's pretty straightforward as far as the print driver, and you know, it's just a matter of saving your settings and telling the machine how many you want and hitting print. Um, the Epson series has done a tremendous job for the customers we have out in the field. We look forward to continuing to serve you and appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about the Epson.